Okay, hey, what's up everybody? It's JayDreamerZ, and hopefully the sound check will work this time. I hope I don't sound like I'm underwater. Please let me know so I can attempt to fix the problem. And if everything sounds good, we'll be right on our way. The sound check will work this time. I hope I don't sound like I'm on. It sounds good to me. What does it sound like to you guys? Just waiting on a thumbs up from the chat room. And hello to everybody in the chat, especially Darian. All right, let me know if the sound is good, video is good. If so, we shall continue. Sorry about earlier. I had to restart everything, and then my computer took forever to send all of its updates and whatnot. But today we're going to be talking about the movie Moana, Disney's Moana. And basically, in a nutshell, it's my firm belief that there are two organizations or two entities in the realm that we live on that work behind the scenes, or seemingly behind the scenes. One of those entities sort of hides in plain sight, all right? And I'm going to do a whole video on that another time. But the other entities, they drop a lot of breadcrumbs to us. They give us a lot of truth that's hidden in the guise of fiction and fantasy and other things, so that we can catch up on it, so that we can, for those who are seeking it, will find it. Those who are looking for the information, it will be made available to us. And Moana is no exception. Actually, Moana is 100% occultic, which means hidden. And in my opinion, it's a movie that does nothing but give us truth and information that's. So please let me know in the chat, can you guys hear me? Okay, is the sound good? That way we can start the video. I'm assuming it's good because nobody's saying anything. And I know everybody's 30 seconds behind me, so. Oh, so on this video, I'm going to be doing a lot of screen sharing. I have a lot of pictures I want to share with you guys. If you have not seen the movie Moana, spoiler alert, okay, I'm going to be talking about the whole thing, basically. So let's jump right into it. Dan Level says that the sound is good. Your pal Parsifal says the sound is good. All right, so here we are. I'm going to start screen sharing if I can figure it out real quick. And here we go. Oh, I'm coming to you live from the bedroom. So I have a little desk now, and I'll probably be doing live streams from this location from now on. Screen share feature here. That way you guys can see what I'm seeing. All right. We're going to present to everyone. Then I'm going to close out that. Oh, you can see a little preview of a lot of what I'd like to be talking about in future videos. I've got all my notes up. And I want to go to photos. I did have all of this like ready to go earlier, believe it or not. Totally spaced opening this photo thing. So here we go, in reverse order, of course. All right, let's start way down at the bottom and make our way upwards. All right, here we go. So Disney's Moana. Moana is all about an island of people, these islanders. And they've been taught and conditioned to accept their island as being the only place that they need to go, a safe place, and it's something that they call home. But in addition to that, they're also conditioned to think that venturing beyond their home or beyond their safe place is something to be afraid of, that they should be afraid to go out and explore the oceans and the boundaries of the reef that surrounds their island. Now, there's a little girl named Moana, and Moana just has this feeling inside of her like she has to go explore, like she knows that there's more out there, and she wants to find out what it is. So her grandmother raised her and taught her all of these myths and these legends and these ancient stories about the old gods and the giants that once existed, that terraformed their world. And Moana is intrigued by it. And the grandmother basically says, one day you will venture beyond our island, outside of our reef, and you will sail the oceans and go on these adventures. Now, Moana's dad, who's sort of like the chief of the island, he always tries to tell her, no, it's not safe out there. Don't venture out beyond the reef. Don't go past our little safe island. So we're going to start with that concept. Why is that important? This is the island right here. Why is it important? It's important because that's the world with which we are presented. That's the reality that we are presented, is that our little realm that we live on is the only place that we can be, that we can't venture out, that we can't explore the boundaries of our world. As a matter of fact, those boundaries have been made off limits by the people who are in charge, or by the entities who are running things behind the scenes, so to speak. Now, Moana, well, before I get into what Moana finds, I also want to share with you, this concept is found in other movies. If you can see right here under my Moana notes, similar concepts of don't go beyond your safe zone, don't go out beyond your little area, are presented in many other movies. These concepts are given to us. These breadcrumbs are revealed to us by these hidden powers that are giving them to us. Now, a lot of people would say, you know, all these breadcrumbs and nuggets of truth that we find in movies and books and television shows, that's just the Illuminati rubbing truth in our faces. I disagree. I don't think so. I don't think that they're rubbing truth in our faces. I think they want to suppress the truth. I think that there are other powers that be that are allowed to drop us wisdom, little hints and clues all over the place, so that those who are looking for it will find it, and those who are not searching and they're not explorers and they're not interested in acquiring more knowledge or truth or whatever, those people won't find it. They'll just be entertained. They will be amused, and that's it. They'll just mindlessly watch something for entertainment value. Now, some people can watch Moana simply for entertainment value. It's very pleasing to the eyes. However, if you're seeking truth, this movie is full of these nuggets. Other examples of these movies where you're told to stay in your little realm. And by the way, I will be talking from a flat earth perspective, and from a flat earth perspective where there are other lands or other realms outside of our realm, off to the sides in every direction. Also, I personally think that there are other planes of existence above and below us, which Moana also hints at. And we'll be talking about all of those here in a minute. But these other movies include things like the bee movie, where the main bee just wants to go outside of the hive. He thinks there's more to life than just living inside of the hive. And sure enough, when he goes outside of the hive, what does he experience? Giants. There's these giants everywhere. Another movie is The Truman Show. Truman is conditioned to stay on his little piece of land and to not explore or to not travel, to not go out beyond the boundaries of his world. And he feels a calling to do so. Dark City is also similar, where the main character is trying to get to a place called Shell Beach. And Shell Beach is always on the outer limits or past the boundaries of the world that he lives in. In the television show, the HBO special called Westworld, the main character, this robot, she wants to go beyond the boundaries of Westworld. And so she actually travels to the ocean, and she's saying, like, we have to go out there past the boundaries in order to get to another world. The movie Divergent, also the exact same thing. Divergent takes place in a small city where everyone is conditioned to stay within the confines of that city because it's a safe zone, because that's where they live and that's their home, and they're not allowed to venture out past this gigantic wall that keeps them all inside. And sure enough, that's what the movie's about, is breaking through that wall or that barrier in order to find other lands and other worlds and other people outside of the barrier. Another one is The Signal. In the movie The Signal, towards the end, by the way, spoiler alert for all these movies, at the end of The Signal, the main characters, they're trying to get beyond the boundaries of this little town that they're in. And sure enough, one of them physically breaks through a boundary at the end in order to get to some other realm or other world on the outside. And last but not least, and there are certainly a lot more examples, feel free to list them in the chat if you know of any other ones. The Giver. The Giver is all about a boy that lives in this circular city, and he goes on this mission to push beyond the boundaries that surround the city. And when he pushes beyond those boundaries, it actually helps everyone in the city to remember all of these memories that they have all forgotten. For some reason, all of the citizens can't remember the past, right? That is the world that we live in today. None of you, well, none of us in general, can remember the past. Nobody can really remember what has happened in this ancient oblivion, this ancient history that it's been wiped from our memories and erased from our history books and replaced by fiction and other stories and rewritten and completely hidden from us. Moana tears that wide open, and she's going to push the boundaries, go out past her safe zone in her home in order to explore. Now, she found out that the people before her actually were explorers. They were sailors, and they would go and they would sail out to other islands, and they would find other places to live, and they would push the boundaries. Each time they would set up a home, but then they would continue on and they would continue to explore. Now, this is a map that supposedly was found that's about 1,000 years old, and or maybe more than that. And it shows you the flat earth map right there in the middle, and there's all of these other regions, these other realms, these other lands outside, beyond our boundary in the flat earth realm known as Antarctica, or the Antarctic ice wall, or the ice shelf. And to me, I see this concept permeating these movies and books and television shows, of pushing the boundaries in order to find other beings, other lands, and other places. But we are conditioned to stay here, to stay put. Now, I'll get into speculation as to why that is, because it seems that other beings aren't really coming into our land either. So maybe it works both ways. But we're given these clues and these hints that if we were to go beyond the boundaries of our own little island, I mean, as you can see right there, our world is basically an island surrounded by water. Now, if we stop being so comfortable with the little island, the little world or realm that we live on, and we can push past the boundaries, then maybe we'll actually find other places with other beings on them. Here's another example of the flat earth map surrounded by other lands. Once you can get past the ice wall in Antarctica, which, by the way, the ice wall shows up in other TV shows and movies as well, most notably Game of Thrones. And as you can see, what if this is something like what our reality is? What if we can get past these boundaries and we can visit other places? Now, in other videos, I'm going to explain my thoughts on whether or not we should, as a group, as a society of people, are we ready? I mean, would you allow every one of our population here on what we call Earth to just invade another land given the state that we're in right now, the energetic state, I'm not so sure I would. But what if there are some of us who are ready, some of us who are qualified energetically, basically we're good people, to pass through and to experience other realms and other beings and whatnot. So here's a picture of Moana surrounded by all of her happy people, all of the inhabitants of the island. And when the movie opens up, everyone's just so happy, and they talk about how they joke and they sing songs and they work all day long, and they basically live in a loop over and over, doing the same thing every day. And Moana says as a child, but nobody leaves. Nobody ever leaves this place. And look at them. Look at these smiles that they have. They are blissfully ignorant, living where they are, happy to be there, but unaware of what's going on all around them, unaware of the other worlds, unaware of their history, where they came from, who they are, what their purpose is. Right now, their purpose is just to be happy existing. That's all. It's just happy to be alive. You know, it's kind of like a birthday, in my opinion. Like, if you say happy birthday, it's kind of like, congratulations, you were born and you're still alive. Good job, you know. But what's the purpose? What's the meaning, you know? And they're all just blissfully happy to be where they are and to have nothing change. They sing this opening song where they say, who needs a new song to sing? This song's all we need. You know, they don't want anything new. They're afraid of change. They're afraid of exploring and pushing the boundaries. And as you can see here, Moana is very uncomfortable surrounded by all these types of people. You might find yourself in a similar situation. So anyways, Moana finds these boats and she realizes, wow, like there's an entire history that's been hidden from me. And it pertains to me. It's about where I come from. And it's important because if I understand the truth of what has happened in the past, it'll affect my understanding of where I am now and where I'm going to go from here, right? And her finding these boats, for me, is a lot like my mind being opened up lately to all of these various revelations, like the earth being a plane of existence, or flat earth, mud fossil theory about the Titans once existing and how they all died off and turned into stone, or the no forests on flat earth. All of those things are in Moana, and we're going to talk about them right now. So as a part of Moana's journey, when she finally steps foot off the island, or she sails off the island, she comes across a demigod named Maui. Now, Maui is part god, part human, sort of. And he has this song, and he starts talking about all of his feats. Now, Maui lives for thousands of years, right? He's an immortal, basically, compared to Moana, who is a human. And Maui, as you can see here, this is one of his tattoos. He says, he starts bragging about things that he's done. Now, these things are impossible if we're on a spinning, wobbling, tilting, flying ball through space. This is an example. Here you have a picture of Maui roping the sun. And what he says is, also, I lassoed the sun to slow your days and give you fun, or something to that nature. So he slows the sun down in its path in order to make the days longer so people can have more light. This means that, what this means is that the ancient gods, let me go back to my, well, you can't see me. Sorry about that. Anyways, I'm going to go back to my video of me for a minute. Sorry, I have to figure out how to use this all over again. It's been a few months. All right, stop screen sharing for a moment. Okay, I'm back. All right, so what this means is that it's talking about the old gods, the old El, or the elven people, which I referred to in my The Secret of the Elves video. Elves, or the old gods, or the demigods, or even the titans that came before them, they terraformed our world. They made what we call the sun. They can control, and have on many occasions controlled, the sun to slow it down, or to stop it in the sky, or to move it in different directions. Actually, there are many various documents that all talk about a time before there was even a moon. And I'll make a video about that in the future as well. But these things that are in the sky, they are constructs. They were made by other beings that came here before us. We just happened to wake up in a world that was already pre-existing. It was already pre-formed and made for us. So naturally, we have been taking it for granted. When we look at the mountains, we just say, oh, it's a mountain. We look at the trees, we just say, oh, it's a tree. We look at the sun, we just say, oh, it's the sun. But what is it really, and where did it come from? Moana tells us Maui had something to do with manipulating the skylight above us called the sun. Okay, I'm going to go back to screen sharing. All right, screen share. Oh, I hit cancel, my bad. All right, screen share. At least I didn't stop the whole presentation, right? All right, present to everyone. All right, let's move along. If I can find it. So here's Maui, right? And I'm just going to touch on this real quick. His symbol is the hook, right? And this is going to be important for later videos. Those of you who have done conspiracy Saturn videos, where we understand that Saturnism and all the Saturn logos and the worship of Saturn permeates our society. It's everywhere. The symbol for Saturn is literally a hook and a crucifix or a cross together. And you'll see the symbol of the hook all over the place, most notably Captain Hook in Peter Pan, which is also a very esoteric children's movie. But let's move on. This is Maui. Now, Maui is akin, or he is just like, the ancient god or titan called Prometheus, right? Prometheus stole fire from the gods and brought it to mankind. Maui in his song says the same thing, that he stole fire from down below so that humanity could have it. Now, I'm going to be doing an entirely different type of video on this character and on this concept, and how Moana, when she meets Maui, she's been conditioned to think that Maui is a bad guy, that he's evil, that he's cursed the whole world. But when she meets him, he enlightens her, as he would, and he says, no, I'm so sorry. I'm sure you meant to say thank you, because I've done all of this for humanity. Now, it is notable to let you hear that Prometheus, on top of bringing fire to mankind, was also it's basically said that Prometheus created mankind. He had a hand in developing humanity, or humans in general. So he had a special care for them. But I think it's interesting that certain figures in our religions and in our histories and in our culture in general are deemed as bad guys or evil, or certain beings are called evil, when in reality, if we look at it, they might not be. But that's an entirely different video, so let's move on. Okay, another thing that Maui says is he held up the sky, that he literally pushed the sky up and kept it in the air. We have a children's story called Chicken Little, where Chicken Little says that the sky is falling. And that's a reality, that the sky could actually fall, or that the sky, also known as the firmament, as you see here, this comes from the word firm or solid. There is something, according to all of these ancient writings from all over our realm and all across time, there's something solid above us. Now, a lot of people speculate as to what that is, but one thing that all of these puzzle pieces agree on is that there's something solid up there acting as a separator. It's a barrier separating this plane of existence from possibly the next plane of existence. And here's a little tattoo of Maui holding up the sky. As you can see, this would be our realm here, and then this would be the firmament, and then there are other worlds represented by stars or other realms above. And then here's the tattoo of Maui stealing fire from the Titans, right? As you can see, that's clearly a Titan. And Maui is a demigod, right? Or just a regular old god. And before him were the true titans. I mean, the beings that were not just giants, like 12 to 15 feet tall, but they were titanic, the size of mountains, extremely large beings that once existed. Now, one of my favorite theories, which is not really a conspiracy theory. I don't really like the word conspiracy that much anymore because I don't think this is a conspiracy at all. I just think it's hidden information. It's hidden history. It's esoteric. And it's occulted. This right here is from the movie Moana. And it just happens to be one of the islands that they visit. Now, can you imagine how this ever could have possibly come to exist as how we're taught? Now, I know it's a movie, and I know this right here is just an artist's impression, but it represents something real. Let me see if I could find an actual picture here. This gets us into the no forests on flat earth theory, which basically says that many of the world's mesas, like the one you see here, were actually once gigantic trees. Now, tree is the only word I can use to describe these giant, ancient, fossilized living things that grew up from the ground, right? Because we see these all around and we see the trees there. Okay, so we would call this a giant tree. Now, it's something altogether entirely different, but it seems like if we follow the clues, we can see that these trees once existed and something happened in the old world and they were all cut down. They're all flat on top. Now, rain does not do this, okay? Wind does not do this. It would not do this. And if it did, these would all be spires. They would be pointy on top, if anything, okay? It is ludicrous and ridiculous, after doing my own research, for me to come to the conclusion that this tower out in the middle of nowhere was shaped and formed because it was once a giant hill, and then all of a sudden it rained for 1,000,000 years and it was really windy for 1,000,000 years and it made this giant tree stump. I don't think so. But anyways, Moana totally refers to this whenever she goes and she visits one. Not only does she visit this particular one right here, but she climbs all the way up it. And you can see in the video, like, it's the exact same formation as the Devil's Tower. It's got these hexagonal type things growing up from it. And it's definitely not just some natural rock formation as we're taught. But I'm going to skip ahead a little bit here, because once Moana gets to the top of this particular giant petrified ancient tree, she jumps inside of it and she goes to what's called the realm of monsters. Okay, I don't have pictures, so I'm just going to go back to myself for a moment. And we will stop presenting. Okay, so Moana jumps inside of this giant petrified tree. Now, I don't know if you guys have seen my tree portal theory video. If you haven't, please check it out. But I did notice that in a lot, trees are used as portals to go into another realm or another world. Check out that video. I give all kinds of examples how trees are used as portals to enter into other realms or planes of existence. And without missing a beat, Moana jumps right into this giant ancient petrified tree, and she goes down past the ocean. She goes through the ocean, and the ocean actually stops and becomes the firmament or the sky of an entirely different plane of existence that we would call the underworld or the inner earth or Sheol or whatever you would like to call it, Tartarus. In the movie, they call it the realm of the monsters. And today in our society, we're just conditioned to call anything that's not like us monstrous. It's a monster. It's something to be feared, right? That's our conditioning, that we're to be afraid of anything different, which is something that I'm trying to break free of myself, and hopefully you are too. But anyways, the movie definitely shows that there are other realms below us, right? And I speculate that there are many realms, that there's realms below us and there's realms above us. And that's also shown in various movies as well as realms off to the sides beyond our boundaries of our plane of existence. Okay, now I'm gonna go back to screen sharing. Isn't this fun? I wish that it was like more user-friendly to switch back and forth. Boring anybody. Okay, present to everybody. There we go. And let's go back to the pictures. All right, where were we? I think we were up this way. Oh, okay, so Moana, she visits the realm of monsters in a lower plane of existence. And then once they battle, you know, the monsters or whatever, and they come back to this plane of existence, she actually comes face to face with titans. And these are the beings that I'm talking about. This titan in the background, like Maui could fit in this titan's hand. These are the real titans of old, of Greek mythology, and I think maybe Roman mythology as well. These were the beings that were miles high, that were gigantic. These are the ancient ones, the gods of the gods that shaped our world and terraformed it and changed it. Now, just as a side note, I'm going to point out that Moana gets the Titan's attention by flashing this emerald green crystal. Now you'll see the emerald green crystals show up in all of these various esoteric movies. Anytime they're trying to show you something that's magical or ethereal. Now, in my video called The Secret of the Elves, I speculated on why that was, because it harkens back to the land of Oz, or the Azir, or the elven race. And that's why this particular color is associated with the El, or the Elves, or the Elu, or whatever you want to call them, the ancient gods, okay? This is their home color. This is the color of magic, because these beings, compared to us today, they lived in a world of magic. Magic was a reality back then. Magic was a reality to all beings. There was nothing special or different about it. It was commonplace in the world, and it was used all of the time. Now, believe it or not, in a magical world, every single thing around you has some sort of magic incorporated into it, but we're blind to it. We don't see it anymore. We have been conditioned to not recognize magic when it's all around us. Now, magic, as it would happen, my theory is that magic is actually going to reemerge, and it's going to become stronger and stronger as time sort of goes back into reverse, and we go back to a sort of paradise type of existence. But that's another video. Let's move on. So, these titans of old. If you've seen some of my other videos, you know I've been looking into mud fossil theory. Now, various people talk about mud fossil theory, and they all have their own ideas about it. But in general, mud fossil theory states that the ancient obliterated world that's been hidden from us, that was filled with titans who were at war with the gods or the elves of old, and all of their technology and everything in that world had perished and had turned into stone for various reasons. Please see my other videos, because I give all kinds of ideas as to why I think that happened and how it happened. But the titans inevitably turned into stone, or sometimes they're called giants or trolls or whatnot, and they turned into rock, and their remains are with us today. We can see them everywhere. Like I said at the beginning of the video, we just see a mountain, we just call it a mountain. We take it for granted. Oh, there's just a big pile of rocks. I don't know why it's there, I don't know how it got there, and I don't know why it took that shape, but it's just a mountain. Well, here you have Moana face to face with a titan who's been turned to stone. Now, let's keep on going. Here's a picture of that titan. The titans, now in this particular clip, she actually lays down and becomes the island. She becomes a part of the earth. she becomes rock and she becomes petrified, she turns into the island. And I would highly, by the way, I'm just going to give a shout out to Age of Disclosure. If you don't know anything about what I'm talking about, please visit that channel. It's called Age of Disclosure. And that channel gives ample evidence that the Titans, having fallen, like the video game Titanfall, the Titans fell, they died, they turned into stone, and their remains are all around us. Not just them, but all kinds of evidence of the ancient world that's been hidden from us today. Here's an example of the Titan laying down and becoming the island. Okay, let me see what else we have here. I think I have a couple of extra notes. Oh, here's a good picture for the No Forest on Flat Earth videos. There's actually a video of it. I'm sure you've all seen it. But basically, here's those mesas, and they just jet right up out of the ground at like a 90-degree angle. They just shoot right up out of the ground. We cannot be expected to believe that wind and rain made that. I'm sorry, but once we step outside of the mainstream of our conditioning, of our schooling, and of all the lies that have been taught to us in order to keep us safe and confined in our routines and our cyclical patterns and our loops that we live in, once we step outside of that, all of a sudden, our eyes begin to open. You see, many of us have been walking around blind for all of our lives. And many of us have been told that we can see, but we can't see, right? We see what they want us to see, and we hear what they want us to hear. We're told what to see. But once we start telling ourselves to allow ourselves to be guided by reasoning and imagination and intuition and other things that we're not taught to use these days, you can look at something like this, and it's obvious. It's obvious. This is not quote unquote natural. There is something to this. This came from somewhere. There's a reason that it's perfectly level at the top. And there's a reason that it just shoots up out of the ground. Just like there's a reason that these two over here are level on top, up out of the ground. Imagine that. Anyways, let me see if I have any other pictures to share, and then I'll go back into video mode and jump in the chat. I think I had some here at the beginning. Oh, yeah, so I'm going to talk about this guy in another video. He is our version of Maui, okay? Now, I'm not talking about Satan, because there's a difference between Satan and Lucifer, but I will absolutely be making a video about this and about seeing this character or the other characters of Prometheus, Maui, etc., and so on and so forth from another perspective, one that we're not conditioned to automatically jump to today. But I'm not going to get into that right now. And by the way, along the lines of this guy right here, I'm also going to be giving you another perspective on the group that we call the Illuminati. Because quite frankly, the Illuminati and all of the symbolism and all of the rituals and all the stuff that is absolutely public knowledge seems to me to have been twisted into something different. And that group may not be what we think it is. At least maybe they're, okay, I'll just give you a little hint, but I think there's two groups, okay? Anyways, here's a great picture of an artist's rendition of a giant or a titan that's been turned into stone. And of course, because it's stone, we build upon it, right? And whatnot, and statues. But if we were really tiny, we might not even see that this is a giant. You might tell yourself, well, I would recognize that, you know, I'd see that. But we don't. And they're everywhere. And here's a perfect example. This is an actual real life picture. Now, look at this picture, and then let's go back and look at the other picture. Pretty much the same thing, except for one's a drawing and one's a photograph. Anyways, that's sort of my wrap up on Moana. I'm absolutely sure there are other things in that movie. It's not just a children's Disney movie. It's not just something fun to just watch and be amused by. I've said it in other videos. The origin of the word amuse is twofold. A, which means without, and muse, which means thought. So when you are amused, amusement park, you are literally there to not think. That's the world that we live in today. They don't want us to think for ourselves. They will tell you what to think. And you're not even really thinking. You're just following instruction. You're not even thinking about it. We move about like clockwork. They just push the first domino, and the rest of our day, we allow those dominoes to fall where they may. And that's if you want to be amused. If you want to watch movies and be amused, by all means, go ahead. There's nothing wrong with taking a break. There's nothing wrong with ignorance of the world that you live in. But nothing lasts forever. And a time will come when these things will be acknowledged. They will have to be acknowledged because they'll become so grand and so in your face that the only way a person could not acknowledge them is if they did it on purpose, if they were willfully ignorant, as a famous book puts it. Willfully ignorant. Now, I believe that we live in a time where people are willfully ignorant. They know that there's other things out there to explore, and there's other concepts and truths that are emerging, and there's a lot of questions rising to the surface about the current paradigm and structure and belief system and history. But they choose not to see them. They choose not to look in that direction. They choose to continue looking right at their feet, at where they are currently, and they continue just looking at the ground, and they don't see what's around them. They don't enjoy the journey. Now, that's one reason why I decided to talk about this particular movie, because I am an explorer. I enjoy the journey. I don't think that life is worth living unless there's some kind of risk involved. I believe that a person is alive at their fullest whenever they're on the verge of death, whenever there is the concept of the unknown all around them. I don't like to know everything. The world that we live in would have you convinced that you know everything, because we're taught for years and years and years in schools. We're taught, here's the answers to everything. You've taken science, you've taken geography, you've taken history, you've taken math, you have all the answers. Now go into the world. Now go get your job at McDonald's and live in a circle and in a loop and do the same thing for the rest of your life, not really changing anything, not really finding anything out, and then one day die, and then go back into the cycle and get recycled or reincarnated and continue doing it over and over again. Does exist, so it must exist for a reason, right? I'm not downplaying it. I think it's a very useful tool for me to personally grow from. I think that the fallen world that we live in today is a useful tool for the forging of myself in the fire, to be refined, to be sharpened, to become a better energy. Now, speaking of energy, and this will be my last thing before I jump into the chat because I can't see the chat right now. But it seems to me that going beyond our realm and into other realms may require some sort of energetic signature. Okay? Basically, in short, you might have to be a good person in order to venture beyond. There may be qualifications. Okay? You might have to be ready to pass through. I don't know if you guys have seen Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, a classic movie, but one part was where Indiana Jones was going to go get the Holy Grail, right? To get this eternal life or whatnot, and to meet this very white and pale albino-looking fellow who's been there forever. Now, in order to get there, Indiana Jones has to literally take a leap of faith. He has to, he holds his heart, right? This is your heart chakra. This is your heart energy. This is your energy where your love comes from, where your openness comes from, where your sharing comes from, where your oneness comes from. And Indiana Jones has to literally like walk across an invisible barrier in order to get there. Now that same concept is also presented in other movies, like The Never-Ending Story. Atreyu comes face to face with the glass reflection, which I will be talking about the glass reflection as well. And just a little small nugget of cool information. When we're presented these metaphors and these symbols of the mirror and how people are passing through the mirror, they're going through the looking glass and they're ending up in some wonderland, it is my idea, my thought, and my theory that it's not a literal mirror, because as we all know, you can't walk through a mirror, but it's the reflection that's important. And based on all of these movies where beings go through the ocean and come out the other side in Neverland or the realm of the monsters or what have you, I think and propose that the mirror reflection, the mirror portals, are just a symbol for the oceans that separate the planes of existence above and below us. Anyways, so I'm done talking about Moana temporarily, and I'm going to jump into the chat, see what you guys think. Oh, no, I'm so sorry. No, I'm not. Oh, I forgot to tell you one more thing. It's on my notes right here. Moana, the whole thing takes place as Moana is an islander, a Polynesian islander to be specific. And let me pull up a map. Actually, yeah, let's pull up a map. I'm going to screen share one last time. And we're going to look at the Ring of Fire. And I'm going to talk to you about the lost continent of Mu, or it's also known as Lemuria. So Atlantis is the popular one, right? We all have heard of Atlantis, which has different names. But Mu and Lemuria is something a little different, while altogether very similar. So let's screen share, and I'll pull up a map real quick. I'll type in Ring of Fire into our Google, who's always listening in. You're always there for me, Google. You're always listening in, even if I don't want you to. All right, how do we do this here? Let's go here and open up a new tab. And I'm just going to type in Ring of Fire. Boom. Oh, no, we don't want Johnny Cash, dude. Okay, Ring of Fire. There we go. So here's a little map. Now, the island of Mu, or the continent of Mu, was said to be in this area, in the Pacific Ocean. Now, there was a man who did a lot of writings about this. I think his name was like Churchill. No, not Churchill. Churchwood or something. I forgot. I read his books a while back. David Icke also refers to this, how there was a lost continent of Mu here in the Pacific. Now, something that our reasoning mind tells us, that if we look around the edges of this whole Ring of Fire area, all of these inhabitants, for the most part, at least going a few hundred years back, they all look like Moana. They're all brown people that have, you know, slight variations of the eyeballs. You know, how they sort of have, you know, I mean, everyone knows Chinese people have squinty eyeballs. No offense to Chinese people or whatever, and Japanese, and the Eskimo / Inuit, and the Aztec people, and all around this Ring of Fire, right? They share certain qualities, right? They share certain vibrational energies as well as certain physical traits. But this also may be where Moana comes from. I'm going to stop screen sharing now. But it's said that the island of Mu sank into the ocean just like Atlantis, that there were these cataclysms that made the island of Mu, or the continent of Mu, disappear. Now, personally, my theory on that and my thought is that there was a time before the deluge, a time before the great flood, where our oceans were introduced. And it was a time where our flat earth realm had very little water compared to what we have today. There were still lakes and ponds and things of that nature, maybe very big lakes, but they did not have oceans back then. Now, I theorize that whenever the oceans were introduced, whether it be from above, because the oceans separate planes of existence, or maybe up from below, or maybe both. But either way, I'm fairly convinced that our world was flooded at some point in time. There's entirely too much water here on the ground, when it seems to me like that's just too much water. And it seems to me that it wasn't that the islands sank down into the ocean, but maybe the ocean or the waters around actually increased and overcame the land that was there. And so those places disappeared. That's just one theory that I have. But anyway, so the people of Mu, they all went out to higher elevations, which became the Ring of Fire all the way around. Now, I also think that the Titans beforehand, those creatures that are miles high, had something to do with the terraforming and the excavation of our realm. It was basically scraped out. And if you open up Google Earth, you can see, if you zoom in on the oceans, scrape marks all the way across the Pacific. I mean, if you start in California and you just zoom in on the ocean, you will see scrape marks, like something like in the land there, in the ocean. Anyways, I did want to mention Lemuria and Mu. I'm also going to touch I'm going to touch on in a future video. I'll be touching on Atlantis and especially the people. There's a land that's called, man, I'm trying to think of it. I wrote it down somewhere. I have so many notes. Oh, I'm looking at all the whiteboards. Okay, on this side of my room, I've got posters and stuff, and there's actually like a historical timeline poster that stretches across the top up here, which is pretty cool. But I've got whiteboards on this side. Okay, there's whiteboard here, whiteboard over there, and they're full of my notes. Oh, Arcadia. That's what I'm going to do a video about, the Arcadians, okay, and how that relates to the arch or the arc entities, the archangels, if you want to call them that, the leader beings, the elves, and whatnot. So we will get into that in a future video. Also, a heads up, in future videos, I will be revisiting our alphabet and how we got our alphabet and how we went from writing left-handed and using our creative side of our brain to switching to right-handed and using the left side of our brain. I'll also be talking about the Georgia Guidestones and how I think that they're entirely misinterpreted by the mainstream. I used to interpret them falsely myself. I used to think that they were a completely bad thing, and now I don't think so anymore. I'll be talking about why I think they're there and whatnot. I'll be talking about the Illuminati, or the two groups of Illuminati, which I have different names for, but how one seeks to physically control and the other one seeks to guide us to freedom. And that maybe we throw that label Illuminati on just anything and we just call it all bad when it might not all be bad. What else? I will be talking about the Pleiades, right? That's an interesting topic, the Pleiades constellation. And I will be revisiting the Revelation Sun, and I'll be sharing with you my concept, according to my own calculations, of a possible end of the world scenario. Now, I'm not going to predict the end of the world, but more of the beginning of the next era. I have calculations I've made. They're very specific, and I will get into that. It's not really doom and gloom. Actually, for me, it's very exciting. It's very exciting to think about apocalypse, which means revealing, right? It means to literally to see something that you didn't see before. It's lifting a veil. So apocalypse, we're conditioned, is a bad word, but it's not really a bad word. It's actually something to look forward to. Just like occultist or an oculist. If you're an oculist, like I am, an oculist is an eye doctor. It's somebody that helps other people to see better. right? Now, you can't force anybody to see anything, but you can be a light. You can bring light to the people, much like Maui did. You can illuminate the world around you so people can see what the world around you looks like. Anyways, I will get into that as well. And I will be talking about Luciferian versus Satanic and what is the difference, if any, between the two. And many other topics as well. But I don't want to ignore everybody that's in the chat. I'm going to jump in the chat right now, and I'll say hello, and we'll open up to comments and questions. Oh, there we go. Okay, so let's see. There's 41 people watching, so hello to everybody. I'm just going to see who's in the chat real quick. I know there's a lot of people watching as well. Thank you so much, by the way. I've got over 5,000 subscribers. Not something that I keep track of, but it is pretty cool. I mean, it blows my mind. I started off my earlier videos, you know, just like my mind was blown when I had 20 or 30 people actually listening to what I had to say. And this is what I would love to do for the rest of my life. I would love to just share my thoughts. I would love to go, you know, to symposiums. I would love to, like, you know, to travel the world and to just share my thoughts on life and history and the future and the past and energetic principles and the elves. I would love to just talk about these things and just go and meet people. And if I could do that and make a living out of it, that's what I would do. All right, let's see here. Participants in the chat are Sherry. You guys will have to excuse me if I mess it up, but Foxy. Oh yeah, Foxy. Felix Siam, Flat Balls, Jen Murphy, Kimberly Fox, and that looks like that's it. But hello to everybody else who happens to be watching, and I'm opening up the chat to comments and questions, if it will reload. Okay, so here's the chat. Kimberly Fox says, thank you. Sherry says, go to the Antarctic. I absolutely will go to the Antarctic one day. Opening Pandora's Box says, you can make a living doing that. Alana says, it's 100. Oh, it's 1 o'clock where I am, or where I live. I think I have a problem. Hunter says, what's up? McVice says, what the blank? So as far as hidden history goes, do any of you guys have questions about anything that I've discussed, any of my recent videos, any of my concepts or ideas that I've been presenting? Oh, Lessons says, do you believe in the Bible? Do you serve God? I absolutely get all kinds of grains of truth from the Bible. Am I a Christian? No, not according to mainstream definitions. I'm not a Christian. I'm something much more than a Christian. And that's not an insult or anything, because I once was a very mainstream Christian. I've studied and read the Bible many, many times over. The Torah, I was Messianic Jew. The Tanakh, I learned Hebrew in order to read it in the ancient language, as well as the Phoenician alphabet in order to retranslate all of those writings. Miss Daldy says, hi, Jay. Hello, Miss Daldy. Kimberly Fox says, resonates. Tommy Lee says that there's many stories about giant trees crossing all of the realms, and I agree. Felix Siam says, will you look at Dwarka, India? Yes, I am. I love the Indian writings. I love the writings of Hinduism, especially the older ones, like the Vedas and the Brahmas and things of that nature. Tommy Lee says he's looking into the 2 different Illuminatis. Good for you. Jen Murphy says that she was Messianic as well. You can actually learn a lot by going and just checking out all of those different things. You know, experience really helps us. The thing is that we don't have a lot of time to experience. So me personally, I'm in a hurry. I'm in a hurry to learn and to gain as much as I can, you know, while I'm here. which I plan on being here for quite some time. Either that or I will be dying an extraordinarily magnificent death, finding things out and pushing boundaries. Foxy says, I'm fairly new, but I really like your stuff. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Lesson says, don't you follow the commandments of the Bible? Some yes, some no. Adam Young says, do I think that the ground beneath us is made of dead giants? Some of it, yes, I do. I absolutely do. Tommy Lee says, Eddas are the stories of Norse mythology, Norse and Scandinavian, right? If you have not looked into those, please do. And I absolutely agree with him. All of these ancient writings, the older, the better. The more we learn about what these myths all have in common, what these religions all have in common, what these historical artifacts and things of that nature all have in common, you can easily start putting that giant puzzle piece back together and start to see a bigger picture. And all of a sudden, the world that you live in becomes a lot more magical and filled with a lot more purpose. And I suspect that we're going to see purpose, actual drive emerge in the world that we live in today, where people will be actually passionate once again about life and about experience and about knowledge and reasoning and creativity and imagination. Just like, if you can see my poster in the background, V for Vendetta, right? The people will read again. The people will imagine once again. We will be opened up to both hemispheres of our brain. We'll be able to become balanced. And it's going to throw a lot of people off. I personally see a lot of potential for chaos in the mainstream world that we live in today, because these little avenues of conspiracy and alternative subjects and ideas are growing and strengthening in numbers that people can't even count anymore. And they're commonplace, and they are starting to frustrate avenues for the mainstream, like the news. The news has to start addressing the flat earth or the plane of existence that we live on, because so many people are talking about the world being flat. Now, on that note, I personally am going to push it way further than just the earth being flat, because it opens up so many other possibilities. But what I'm saying is that a time will come where people will have to acknowledge all of these things. It's going to be so manifest and so evident that they'll have to choose to just ignore it instead of not being aware of it. Sherry says, preach it, Jay. Kimberly says, balance will be. Miss Daldy says, what are my thoughts on Hollow Earth? Well, basically, I don't know if I like it. I don't know if I like to call it Hollow Earth, because Hollow Earth is kind of tied into the ball Earth theory, but I absolutely think that there is a plane of existence below us, that there are places that we can go to below us. I think there are boundaries, and there's get into those places, but I also think, you might as well call it the hollow sky theory as well, because I think there's planes of existence above as well as below, right? As it is above us, so it is below us. A concept that's taught by some of these quote-unquote mystery religions, or call them like secret societies. They're not secret, I'm sorry, but all the secret societies that you know about, they're not secret. But I will talk about that in another video. There are actual secret ones that you've never heard of, because they don't have a name. They don't have a corporation and a business, or they're not interested in money and things of that nature. Let's see here. What else? Sorry, I was outside of the chat. Ross Q is in the chat. And Ross Q says, I'm trying to read it. Vaccines, something about vaccines. Vaccines contain negalis, which destroys our immune system. Earth is flat and doesn't spin as well. Oh, yeah, you know what? I can't talk about vaccines right now because I'll talk about that forever, but they're bad in essence. Jay Analyze, what's up, man? Adam Young says, how do you know there are actual secret societies? So here's the thing, right? To those who know about them, it's not a secret, right? Now, groups like the Freemasons, Skull and Bones, Rothschilds, the United Nations, all these societies, they're not secret. They're very public. They're very known. Now, the things that I share with you, these are secrets to you. They're secrets to the public. These are things that people have not thought about or pondered. And honestly, I just offer it up. I'm not forcing anyone to listen to my words. I'm not going out of my way to knock on your door and say, hey, wake up, you need to listen to this. I present and make available the information and the ideas and the concepts. And if you stumble across it, it is your decision to sift through it to find what resonates with you. Or you don't have to. You can move on, right? I make it available, just like many other groups of entities are making information available so that either one, it's entertaining or amusing to those who aren't looking for it, or two, those who will find it will. If you're looking for this type of information, this video is something that is more likely to be something that you'll stumble across, as well as some of my other videos, and not just mine, many people out there. And they're not all on YouTube. There is a whole, I don't like to call it race, but there's an entire entity that is in this world today whose main purpose is to be a light, is to make information available in our little neighborhoods, in our little reach of influence. And it's only available. That's all it is. It's available for you to take or to reject or to not find whatsoever. But one thing we will never do is we will never force information upon you. I will never come out and try to debate you and tell you that you're wrong and you need to believe this and you need to wake up. We respect your ignorance. Not you guys in the chat, you know what I mean? Not everybody, but you out there, you know who I'm talking to. I'm addressing you. If you have found yourself to be a sort of zombie who's starting to feel like you can actually feel, not feel as in like hot and cold, but it's like you can spiritually and energetically start to be more alive. You can start to feel the world around you. You can start to see. This is magic. It's literally magic that I'm describing. It is energetic property that's shared among and between all things, and it's everywhere, and it's unavoidable. But it's something that you are allowed to be ignorant of it. Now, you're ignorant of it because of this veil of forgetfulness that's been placed over all of us that has various degrees of heaviness or thickness about it, and that veil can easily be lifted to those who are seeking to lift that veil, right? And everything comes in its time. Anyways, I'll get off my soapbox about that. P2PN85 is in the chat. What's up, P2? Sherry says conscious energy. Okay, so I don't want to make it too long of a video. I've got a couple things I need to do. But I'm so sorry. My next video, I actually went to go see the movie It. Stephen King's classic It movie with Pennywise, the scary clown. That is another movie. By the way, it's well done. I'm a movie buff, and I come from a time in the 80s where scary movies actually had substance to them. They had storylines, and it was suspenseful. It wasn't just all gore and it wasn't all gore and gross and just trying to jump out and scare you or whatnot. This movie was an excellent remake, but it was so much more than that. Being a truth seeker, I got a lot out of the movie It, just like I got a lot out of Moana. but it is going to go into the darker side of the elven race. It is going to go into the darker side of these cults and these groups that I'll be talking about. I will be talking about the movie It. I don't know if I'll do a video tonight or maybe later, but does anybody have any questions for me? I'm going to open up the next 5 minutes to questions in the chat, and then we'll wrap things up. And it'll take about 30 seconds for you guys to hear that, so I'll just wait. Miss Doll D wants to know September 23rd scare. Miss Doll D, every year there's a September 23rd scare. However, I'm probably going to jump on that boat because next year I actually think I've calculated something is likely to go on, and I'll make a video about that. Where am I from? That's a deep question. I'm from a lot of places, but simply in our world, I'm from New Mexico, and I grew up in Southern California. Any source to look deeper into elves? Tommy Lee wants to know what you can look into. Tommy, there's not a lot of sources. You need to put the puzzle pieces together. I would highly recommend connecting the aliens and the gods of various writings and movies and TV shows. And instead of calling them aliens and God, call them elves. And watch my video about that if you haven't already. But no, as far as YouTube goes, I think I'm the only one that's really actually talking about elves as being a reality, as being real. And I'm going to continue talking about elves being real because they are. They're 100% real. They're not comical like the movie Elf. You know, that was horrible. Like we're trying to make these things something that they're not in order to dismiss them. But I will continue pumping out as much information as I can. Tommy Lee, you want a book about it? I actually am working on a book. Actually, I'm reading a software program. As you can see over here, it says book chapters. Oh, I forgot I'm not screen sharing. But anyways, it says I'm starting to write out notes for an actual book so that I can make my thoughts on all of these subjects available. I don't know if any of you, oh, let me ask you, would anyone here be interested in buying a book that I would write and, you know, having it around or reading it? You know, if I were to write a book, is that something that you would read or be interested in? I would make it full of pictures, you know, and have a lot of information, as I typically do, on word origins, hidden history, elven race, flat earth, all this type of stuff, energetic principles. I Spy Nestle Eyes. Hey, what's up? Sorry you caught the end of our video. We're actually just doing the question and answer portion. Everyone in the chat says that they would read a book if I wrote one. Awesome. Okay, well, keep that in mind. I'm going to start actually every day write out pieces of a book. And as far as a time frame, I don't know, maybe a year from now, hopefully I'll actually have a book, you know. And if people like it, maybe I'll write another book. And if it gets popular, maybe I'll actually travel and go speak at different places in different countries and meet many of you. But yes, I will be writing a book. And if you're interested in it, that's awesome. Does anybody else have any questions about any of my recent videos or ideas? Hidden History, the Titans. Like I said, shout out to Age of Disclosure. Please check out his channel on mud fossils and the Titans of old and how they're turned to stone and live in the world around us. It's one of my favorite channels right now. Another one is the Impossible channel, or That Impossible channel, by a guy named James. James, if you're watching, I like your stuff, man. James has a lot of people send him information. I think that's a great idea. At the end of my videos, I'm going to start asking all of you if you have pictures or video clips that you would like to send me them to JayDreamerZ@protonmail.com. Don't just send a link, because I'm not just going to click on every link just to see what it is. Send me a link or a picture or whatnot, and give me a description so that I can understand it. I do get a lot of emails and stuff, And honestly, sometimes I don't have time to go over everything. So if there's anything of interest and you want to send videos or pictures for me to be able to share with everybody else, by all means, send them to my email, JayDreamerZ@protonmail.com. True Love says, do you have insights to the lands beyond Antarctica? Yes, I do, but you're going to have to rewind the video. I do talk about that a little bit earlier. Here says, JayDreamerZ, how about some air quotes? Did I have a nice birthday? Yes, I did. Miss Daldy says, what about elves as fallen angels? They're one and the same. In my book, they are the exact same thing. Any other questions? Foxy says, I like the integration of other hidden and forgotten histories and sciences and how they connect to the flat earth. I do too. There's pieces to this puzzle all around us. It's everywhere. I mean, you don't even have to like go to the library and look for information. You can find these things in the world all around you. There's symbolism all around you. All you have to do is start questioning everything you see. For example, I was driving down the street. We have a restaurant kind of like Denny's, and it's called Village Inn. And Village Inn has a logo of like a sun with VI in the middle. Now VI is Roman numeral 6. And I thought, how interesting. Why would they have this star with the number 6 inside of it, right? And I tied it into Saturn symbolism. All because I questioned the reality that is presented to me. You guys, if you want to start learning things on your own, just start questioning everything. I don't mean doubt everything. I mean stop taking everything around you for granted. Start asking yourself, why is it there? Why is it that color? Why is it spelled that way? Why is it like that? Where did that come from? Where did that originate? And if you start questioning things, eventually those answers will fall right into your lap due to the law of, right? Or if you seek, you shall find, right? Seekers, they automatically draw truth to them, but you have to actively be seeking the truth. You can't have a passive desire to know the truth, but not have any action to back that up. You can't be like, yeah, you know, everyone's lying to us and the truth is out there. Well, go find it. And if the truth is out there, open your eyes and start looking for it. It's everywhere. It's under a rock. It's in a cave. It's on a billboard. It's in the world around you. It's in the room that I'm in right now. The truth is everywhere, and there are nuggets of it. There's a fractured picture into a million pieces, and that's the world that you live in. True Love is in the chat, and True Love says, I love your Superman videos. Useless Eater says, do you get any information from the deep web? No, absolutely not. Let me tell you the web that I use more than anything. It's called the ether, right? It is the web of cyclically interconnectedness between all of us. All of us, you and I, you, right now, right? Yes, you, yes. Me and you are linked, or you and I are linked, right? There is a link energetically between us. Now, it's probably a very weak link, or at least it seems to be a very weak link. In all reality, it's stronger than any link that exists anywhere because everything is connected, right? Right before I go to sleep, when my mind is starting to open up, I come up with the most amazing thoughts and revelations on things because my mind is opening, not because I jump on the internet and I'm looking things up and I want to find information that other people are giving. No, I simply link to the information that's already there, that exists psychically between all of us. The information is something we're already sharing. If you have a song stuck in your head, if an idea pops into your memories, deja vu, all these types of things, we share the ether or the aether or the author all around us. We are linked, and all of you have experienced this in some form or another from time to time. Now, it's strongest for me right before I go to bed, and I actually keep by my bed for that very reason. I will write things down. because my mind is opening up. My energies are opening up. And I'm more connected with the things that are around me. So, sorry, I'm kind of ranting, but Useless Eater says, are you an empath? I think you know the answer to that question, Useless Eater. Sherry says, we're forming a human planetary grid of high frequency. Well, yeah, it's already there. There's nothing to be formed. All it is to be realized. That grid is already there. That connectedness and that oneness is already there. It already exists, and it's already very strong, but it's all potential energy. It's not activated. It's not realized. Once we all start realizing it, we're going to rush backwards in time, seemingly, and re-experience various epics that will take us back to a more utopian world, right? Right now we live in a dystopian world, right? A non-paradise state. But as the pendulum swings faster and heavier down towards the point of no return, where it can do no worse, there's nowhere else to go but up, and time itself will seem to reverse. Many of you will experience this as time happening very quickly, as time speeding up. That's because we are in the quote-unquote end times. There's your air quotes. We are in the end times, the time where the pendulum is going its fastest before it reaches apocalypse, or the new era, the new age, in which it will start to swing upwards, and then time will start to slow down more so that we can experience all of the beauty and wonderful and positive things. Tommy Lee says, I just got this weird feeling I know Jay from somewhere, not just from YouTube. Yes, I know many of you from various places, and that's a hard one to explain, but yes. And Jen says, I know you too. All right, are there any other questions? I promise this is the last time, and then we're going to wrap things up. I need to go drink some water, and then maybe I'll come back and do a video about the movie It, Stephen King's It, and the whole clown and underground, white beings with red hair who feast on negative energy, aka the dark elves. Ooh. I'll wait 30 more seconds for any other questions, and then we'll wrap things up. Sorry about earlier, by the way. I know I was having computer issues. I'll try real hard from now on to make sure I reboot my computer and my modem and everything else before we start all these. And I do plan on getting a new laptop sometime in the future, hopefully. And that way I can have all brand new memory, and it'll run a lot better. And I'm going to use that to actually keep all of notes for my upcoming book. And I'll probably be it'll probably help out with videos and whatnot as well. Okay. Tommy Lee's asking about doppelgangers. Everyone else is saying, good job, keep it up. Thank you, everybody. Tommy Lee, I might talk about that in my next video. And Useless Eater says to get a desktop. Anyways, I'm going to go. Thank you all for watching. Hopefully you got something out of this. I like my videos to be something where people can take things away from them, not like people who go to church for hours on end and then they come back and you ask them what they learned and they haven't learned anything. They can't share any information with you. I want to always be able to share information. Hopefully you guys got some good little breadcrumbs out of the things that I've talked about today. Anyways, I'll see you guys in a bit. Thanks for watching and have a great night. Bye. Oh, actually, I'm going to end it with a song, right? I can't remember how the song goes, but there's this song by Chainsmokers and Coldplay, and it's called Something Like This. And I think if I remember the lyrics, it goes, I've been reading books of old, the legends and the myths, Achilles and his gold, Hercules and his gifts, Spider-Man's control, and Batman with his fists. And I feel like I can be somebody on that list. I don't know. It's something like that. Anyways, you guys have a great night. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.